Hello guys, in today's video I'm going to be attempting to explain what Tool's music looks like to me with my synesthesia. Now if you're not familiar with synesthesia, in my case it means I can see sounds. It's basically crossed-wise in your brain. I've got a whole video explaining it and the many forms it can take, which I'll put a link to in the description. I would recommend watching that first just to get yourself acquainted with it. So I wanted to do Tool first because they are a very textural band. They use so many different layers, there's so many hidden things, and I still find new stuff in their music all the time. So to me, they're a very visual band, and they're also one of my favourite bands, so why not start with them? But just before we go ahead, I would love to hear your suggestions. I will also be doing a video where I talk about my own music and what that looks like to me, because I know many of you have been curious about that. But yeah, I will plan to do other bands as well. It's just, why not start with these? So without further ado, there is one thing that I want to go through at the end of this, and that is the song Viginti Tres. Now, apologies if I'm saying that wrong, but I know that might not be the immediate song you want to hear from Tool, because it's not so much a song, it's more of a soundscape. So I will leave that till last, but I think once you hear what it looks like to me in the way it's described, because it's like a world, I think you'll possibly be as interested in it as I am. So we'll start with Rosetta Stoned first, just because it's one that's a bit more familiar. I won't do entire songs, we'll go section by section, and I will do my best to explain what it looks like. Some things that I see don't really exist in this world necessarily, so they can be a bit hard to explain, but I will do my best to acquaint them or match them up to things that do exist in this world as closely as I can. So here we go. Okay, so that feedback at the start, that to me looks like a watery kind of wibbly line that does this across my eyes. The background is black, and then the guitar feedback is a kind of like moving white line like that. It's kind of slightly transparent, and then once Adam's guitar tone kicks in, everything is a more like bluey grey sound, and his guitar tone is almost like a TV static in a line, and it's a very close together kind of static. I find that guitars in general all look like variations of TV static, but depending on the tone it can be closer together, smoother, more rough edged, and that texture tends to move depending on what the guitar's doing. But Adam's guitar tone to me always pretty much is very grey, like very similar to the 10,000 Days album covers colours, and it's a very close together but very defined static. So Maynard's voice there is white. Maynard's voice is normally white to me as well, and obviously he's got that effect on it, and to me that looks like, you know, if you get one of those spirograph pencils and it kind of splays out like that kind of shape. I can't actually do it, but it kind of does that. That's how it looks to me. It's white and it splays out in a kind of spirally shape, which is a bit ironic with Tool. Okay, so as soon as Justin's bass kicks in, it kind of adds like a ball of sound. That's the only way I can describe it. Everything gets really thick and it's kind of this shape, so it bulges out in the middle. And then you've got Adam's guitar tone sat on top of that. Maynard's vocals on top of that are kind of doing this in a kind of mental fashion. And then Danny's drums are very clear. So one thing I will go into in this video, I do talk about it in the other one, but I will briefly. when I see songs and music and sounds, I can see each instrument individually, but I can also see the song as a whole as well. And depending on which instrument I focus on, or if I focus on the whole thing, it can look a certain way. So like I can focus on each individual drum. They will all look different, but the song as a whole also has its own kind of look. When Adam does that little dillid thing, I can visually see it as it's kind of a smoothish line, and then it goes da-da-da-da, like there's a kind of gaps in it as he does that, and they kind of pop out to me. So Maynard's vocals there, obviously they're panned, but the way it looks to me is like they're kind of doing this on either side as they fade out. That's sort of what I see. But we'll skip a little bit in, and I know exactly where it is because it's on the most replayed bit. In fact, let's go back a little bit. Let's go to... Okay, so Adam's guitar sound is kind of doing this in my vision. Justin's bass tone is... It's always a very silver kind of a look, and it's a thicker line than Adam's guitar sound. And as he plays it, as he strums, because he uses a pick, you get this kind of... Say you zoomed in on a bass string and you know if they're round wound, you've got the ridges in it. It looks a lot like that as he strums. And then Maynard's vocals are very smooth on the top. Again, they're white. So you've got Adam's bluey grey guitar sound, Justin's silvery bass tone, and then Maynard's white vocals. Okay, so this is a weird one to explain, but Adam's guitar sound is very forefront. It's like it's sat on top of everything else, and it's a silvery white, completely smooth, so not staticky at all, but a sharp looking vision that kind of moves like that. And sometimes it comes back in a kind of sharp manner, so it's going like that as he moves. And in the background, kind of, I would describe it as here, all around, is obviously where Danny's playing that drum beat. It's very tribal sounding. It's like, I'd describe it as grey lily pads touching the surface of water, doing that everywhere. Again, very similar colours to the album cover, which is quite funny. But so this next bit I'm very excited to try and explain. So Maynard's vocals look like TV static doing this, but very thick. So as Maynard comes into the crescendo of the song, everything else sort of takes a back seat. It's very grey, bluey textures, and Maynard's vocals kind of do that spiralling, splaying out thing. It comes out like towards you like that. That's what his vocals look like to me in that part. So Danny's drums are, again, it's really difficult to explain drums, but they look round and they're kind of popping out. And then on top of that, you've got Adam's guitar sound, which is very blocky at this point. It's like little rectangles coming out. Justin's bass sound is just adding a nice silvery texture underneath all of that. So moving on to another Tool song now. This is Disposition. Okay, so Justin's bass tone is not only one of the most beautiful bass tones in the world, it also is visually too. It's really difficult to describe, but as he's playing, it's obviously got that, again, very silvery look with kind of that kind of ridged shape. But as he's playing the harmonics, they're a very transparent, soft-edged, round visual thing. And as he plays them, when he plays the low note, I can see that really thick down here. And as he's playing the harmonics, they appear kind of over here. So I'm trying to get it on the screen about where I would see it. Like flashes of really soft light fading in and out. And then some of them are over here. Like that's down here, that low note. And then there's doo-doo is up here. Like doo-doo. That's very central. So moving a bit further into the song. Mention this to me. Mention something. So Justin's bass sound is like 3 different lines of texture. Silvery texture, again, very similar to what I've described. Danny's drums underneath. There's like everything underneath Justin's texture is Danny's drums. So it's all circular patterns coming in and out like this. So Adam's guitar there on that duh-duh is coming in over here, and it's a very soft looking, again, kind of rectangular look. Maynard's vocals again are very white on top of it, very pretty, very airy. So that whammy on Justin's bass is, again, ironically, like little spirals that come out. So everything else is going on very similar to as it was. And then you've got Justin's bass tone with the little whew sound that kind of does spirals like this. And they come out or towards you depending on how he plays it. But those spirals for some reason are blue. Pretty actually, they're almost like party streamers in a swirl. But yeah, I really love the way this one looks. It's a very nostalgic song too. So moving on to Wings for Marie now, which is a very difficult one to do justice because it really is a visually stunning song and it's got so much atmosphere, but I'll do my best. So I'm not sure what that kind of scraping sound is, but I'm guessing it's Maynard's breathing or something to do with him. That's very strange. Look, it's very in the background. So everything right now is black. And then you've got Maynard's sounds in the background on either side doing this. And they're very transparent white, slightly textured as if someone was smudging it across my vision. Adam's guitar sound is very much in the middle, and it looks like tiny little beads that are coming in and out, very staticky again, but a different kind of texture, less rough, very smooth. And that gong type sound is very much in the center, and it fills the center of my vision. It's very gold, and it starts really bright and solid in the middle, and as it radiates out, it sort of fades out to kind of gold and then into the black. Okay, I love this bit because to me it looks visually brilliant. So Adam's guitar sound in my vision is kind of, again, everything's black. He's a white light that is moving around. There's a white like a line of a circle, and Adam is a white light that is moving around like this as his guitar pans around. It almost feels like it's doing that around my head, but I can visually see it. If anyone's seen the show Avatar: The Last Airbender, there is a scene which to me I think looks very visually similar, where they're saying there is no war in Ba Sing Se, and they're kind of brainwashing the guy. And if you've ever seen that bit, I'll put a clip in. It's very, very similar to what it looks like, but not exact. So as that comes up into the kind of anti-crescendo, just Adam's guitar sound is almost like a tornado that kind of does that gradually upwards. Danny's little kind of tinkly bits on the cymbals are like a goldy and then sometimes silver as they come over here. You can just kind of see them dotting in and out. Everything else otherwise is again very dark blue and grey. It's almost got a smoky kind of a look to it. Maynard's voice on this one, especially at this point, sometimes he's got an effect on it and that effect looks very airy and very transparent, and it almost creates, so you've got his voice here and then on top of that is that transparent layer, and it's very kind of alien looking texture. So that bit there with the little, I don't know what that exactly is, but I describe it as a bubble sound, because to me it looks like, say you're in very dark water but it's very clear, very grey, and there's bubbles that come up, and you know how if you've got a carbonated drink you can see them coming up to the surface? That's how that sound looks to me. And then there's a kind of like whirlwindy looking texture after that. So as Justin's bass comes in there, it kind of almost looks like this massive metal plate comes in front of everything, but in a nice way. So moving on to descending now. So Adam's guitar sound moves in a really strange way. Kind of as it comes in, it does this, and then as he kind of moves, it comes back like that, almost like waves. But the way it looks is about kind of this thick in my vision, whereas normally it's very small. It's slightly transparent, but very grainy. It's really, really textured. And as Danny does that kick drum fill, that kind of comes in the background. So that guitar sound is much more solid, much thinner, and it's kind of got a goldy colour to it. So this bit's really cool to me. His guitar tone's silver and it's a very smooth silvery line. But because there's two tracks, two harmonies, and they both move, sometimes one moves down and the other stays where it is. So I can see the one harmony moves like this, the other one is below it like this. And they're in sync until sometimes the lower harmony moves down. So this harmony will be doing this and that one will be doing that. And then they'll sync up again, and sometimes this one will move and that one doesn't, depending on which harmony is not playing the same as the other harmony in terms of rhythm. And then Danny's drums, obviously again very present underneath it, but I can really focus in on Adam's guitar there as well. So Danny's drums just sit really nicely in the background. They're adding kind of, the way I describe cymbals in general is when someone hits a cymbal, it's like a gold, almost a colour of a cymbal, and it's like streaks down my vision. And it kind of gets more and more transparent as it does so, almost in like a spiky, drippy kind of a way. But when Danny is hitting the cymbals in this song, it's that texture, but they're a more kind of, again, bluey, greyish kind of a colour. So moving on to the one that I'm most excited to describe to you, even though it's the least songy song one. This is Viginti Tres. I will go through pretty much this whole song because it's a very strange imagery and I can describe it very strongly, and it follows almost a narrative, which is really strange, but here we go. So at this point in this section, what I can see is there's a very, very dark, almost pitch black texture that looks like a railway tunnel almost. And along the side of it, it's curved. Along the side of it are two wires. And one of them has a blue spark that goes all the way down and it follows. So it starts really close to my vision. And as that sound happens, it moves all the way down and further out of sight. And as it's moving, it's lighting up the rest of the tunnel blue. So that continues, and as that sound grows, so does the electrical, whatever you call it, like a spark. And as that's coming in, that's a white kind of, I don't know how you describe it. I would describe it as air because that's how air looks to me, but that's not very helpful. It's a white, airy looking texture that is coming in from this side, and it's moving in a circle of white. Light is the wrong word because it's not lighting it up, but it's adding a kind of white texture to it. And so this bit is now moving in sync. So the blue is going faster down that wire, down the thing. As the white texture is coming on, they're starting to sync up and move down at the same rate. And then that is like, so they both start merging into a very similar colour, and as that sound happens more strongly again, it adds another blue spark that goes down. So again, another blue spark. Same kind of texture, both moving, but one is more over here now. So again, another spark going down. It's very creepy. So that spark is kind of dying down into a more transparent kind of a look. So this sound in the background now, we've kind of moved into a very, very dark, same kind of lighting, lift shaft, but not one that has doors that close. It's one of the kind of mining shaft lifts. So it's got the metal grate, and then you've got dark walls all around. It's square, and it's moving down. So you can see the air in kind of like white lines as it's moving down. It's not very fast at the moment, but it's almost like, if I was there, I could feel the air. And now it's speeding up, so it's going down, down and down. More and more fast. And as that's happening, it's getting darker. So on this bit, it's going down really fast. You can see all the air rushing past. And so before it was speeding up gradually, now we're travelling at a constant, very fast speed, and there's really thick air. So instead of lines of air that were white, there's now thick, transparent air coming all around that is like a dark bluey grey again. You can kind of see the bricks on the wall rushing past as well. So as things get higher pitched versus lower pitched, the higher pitched they are in this, the more they seem to turn to a white colour. the lower pitched they are, the more they seem to turn to a thicker, more bluey grey kind of colour. So here it kind of almost comes to a bit of a stop, like it starts slowing down and I can see a kind of white steamy looking thing. So the way that looks is I can see a non-human black kind of grey blue head. So we're in the mine shaft on the lift, and at the top of the mine shaft is this giant head, and its mouth is about the size of the mine shaft. And as it talks, it's sending us down again at a faster rate, and its voice kind of is surrounding everything. It's very transparent, but it's completely full of lines of air that are kind of both white and grey blue. Now at this point the blue sparks return, but in the mine shaft. You can see them kind of rushing past you. And they're moving around like that, but going as you're going up or down. And that really looks like the angle changes, so you're going like that, and let's say I can see it from like a front on point of view. It's almost like visually my front on point of view changes and does this, so I'm looking above it, and it's a really almost like a vertigo feeling. It makes my stomach turn a bit, but I love it. So the lift has now basically left us and we're just watching it go down, and it's getting further and further away into the darkness. And that just looks really strange, like pixels. Yeah, so it kind of disappears into like a blue pixely electric looking thing in the distance. I think what's creating the wall texture is that very low airy sound, because I can see that too, and that's the only other sound I can hear that's going on, so it must be that sound. So yeah, very difficult to describe. There's only so many words we have for textures, or for like very similar looking textures. They all look different, but we don't have enough words for me to describe just how they look different, or at least I don't have enough words. Maybe it's my fault, but I wish I could visually show you. Sadly I can't animate or do anything like that to be able to show you exactly what it looks like, but hopefully I've done at least somewhat of a good job of giving you a little glimpse of what it looks like, maybe even some inspiration, and you can start to visualize that yourself. But that's just what naturally comes into my vision as I'm watching it. It's not uncommon for me to see like some songs really do look like rooms, and I can't really figure out why. Maybe it's because they're creating an atmosphere, and maybe my brain associates certain atmospheres with certain things, because synesthesia is crossed wires, and when you're born they think everyone has these to help you make sense of the world, and then when you grow up these wires sever into being their own senses. But in some people they don't sever, so you end up with vision where there should be sound, for example. So it kind of makes sense that you might associate certain things with certain rooms or stuff like that if it was to initially help you learn how to take in the world. Maybe it's just stuff that's stuck at the time. I don't know, that's just my theory. But one of the main people who makes me see rooms and things like that is John Frusciante, and in his music, especially one of the untitled tracks, which I cannot remember which one it is, but I would love to do a video describing John's music, because so many of his feel like places, and like all his different albums have different textures overlaid onto them that are consistent throughout the album. So I guess it's the way he's recorded them. I can see that it looks visually different. Some of them are places, some are very textural, some are like I'm actually somewhere watching something. But it's all because of the sounds that are going on and just what it's making me see, basically. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I am planning to do one with my own original music as well, because again, I know a lot of you have asked for that, so that will be coming. Please give me your suggestions if you would like to see more. Also, if you know any animators or anyone that might be able to help out visually in the far future, that would be amazing. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Link to original music is below, and I will see you next time. Bye.